And we're going to shift gears a little bit and have a conversation with Rich Vecchio. Rich Vecchio. He's the Senior Director of Talent and Culture at the PGA Tour, and he has over 20 years of experience in the HR and staffing industry. He's earned his SHRM SCP certification as well. And Rich is passionate about creating a diverse, inclusive, and engaging work environment for his employees, who are the driving force behind the PGA Tour's mission to deliver the best golf experience in the world. Rich partners with senior management and stakeholders to align HR initiatives with organizational goals and values. Rich leverages his expertise in recruiting and wellness programs to attract, retain, and develop top talent, and to foster a culture of health and well-being. He's proud to serve as the board chair for the North Florida chapter of the Multiple Sclerosis Society. So, Rich, we welcome you this morning to this workforce briefing.
Thank you, Julie. It's really just wonderful to be here. I appreciate the opportunity and look forward to sharing some insights into what we're experiencing.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, we've learned a little bit about you today, but share a little bit with us about your organization and the role that you play.
Sure. So the PGA Tour is known as the premier golf league for players to come and really exhibit their skills, earn great prize money. Most of every one of our tournaments are run as nonprofit events. Essentially, we look to attract the big name players through prize money. We sell tickets. The more big name players, the more tickets we sell. Once we pay the players, pay our overhead expenses, all the remaining funds are really given back to the communities that we serve in the form of charity. And so collectively, the tour has raised almost $4 billion that we've given back to different charities. Personally, I can't comprehend what $4 billion looks like, but I know it's more than baseball, basketball, hockey, and the NFL have given back. So, I mean, just thinking we're not the big four of sport, but it's pretty profound numbers. So I'm proud to be a part of that. So that's a big part of the tour. And, personally, I tackle human resources matters, operationally, everything from talent acquisition, employee relations, to wellness programs and different community involvement activities. You mentioned that I'm a part of the North Florida MS Society, and so I also co-captain our bike team, PGA Tour Cycle to the Shore, which CSX has a phenomenal team as well. So thank you, Leslie, for your organization and the support there. But those are just some of the fun activities that we also pull together.
That's awesome. I had no idea about the amount of money that the PGA Tour has donated. That's really fantastic. And I think when people are looking to, look at companies and align themselves with companies that have similar missions, you both, the players and CSX, are both really making an impact in our communities, and we're really grateful for that.
Absolutely.
So another question we have for you this morning, Rich, there are many paths one can take within corporate operations, as we've kind of described. What are some of the roles available within your respective organizations that will require, or that will hire a high school graduate and also then an adult with less than a bachelor's degree?
Absolutely. So the tour is made up, when I think about the tour, it's really three main organizations. There's the tour, which puts together the circuit events for players. There's our TPC network of golf clubs around the country. And then there's the First Tee Foundation. The First Tee Foundation really is focused on teaching values and those general guiding principles to youth. And they use the game of golf as a resource or tool to help educate the students and coach them in that regard. With respect to the types of positions, I'll start with the clubs. And there's numerous opportunities for high school graduates, everything from hospitality, food and beverage opportunities. There's retail, golf course operations, even groundskeeping. So there's really quite the plethora there. But the first tee and the tour, more so on the corporate side, we've got departments just like any other company. Similar to what Leslie was sharing about CSX. There's finance, accounting, legal, HR, sales and marketing, communications, technology. And in many of those areas, we find that, there's certain areas that do require a degree. However, when individuals have experience that's applicable, then we will often look at life experience and work experience in lieu of the actual degree. So lots of opportunities.
Okay, that's great. So this is a side question. How would somebody market that on their resume? Do they need a cover letter to explain that? How are they going to ensure that you see all of that experience rather than a degree?
Whenever I'm coaching somebody on their resume, I don't think a resume is a one and done. You
Mhm.
need to tailor it for the specific job that you're applying to. And if you can highlight a few of your experiences that normally the first two or three bullets in the job description are going to be the areas that are most important to an employer.
Mhm.
So if you're capturing your experience as it pertains to those particular areas, I think that's going to help showcase. As for cover letters, there's a mix. In some cases, absolutely great. Definitely helps tell your story and why. Um, in some cases, those are not always looked at by all recruiters. And I think one of the neat things or kind of unique things about recruiting is that if you ask 100 different recruiters how to set up a resume or what's important, you might get 100 different answers. So
Right.
there's a lot of um, experience and uh, that helps guide the hiring process. And it's objective, but
Mhm.
yet there's some things, when a recruiter says that within 10, 15 seconds, they've pretty much sized up a person with more experience. There's more of a reality to that.
Got it. Okay, that's great to know. Sometimes we get asked some of these questions when we're out at events. In fact, it just happened this past Saturday
Sure.
at an open house at FSCJ. So I was just curious because I was giving some information and just kind of curious to see what you thought about that.
Certainly.
So, what kind of education path do you look for in prospective hires? We've looked at a couple of different opportunities, regardless of the education that you have, but what kind of path do you look for in individuals? What are some of the valuable skills, the credentials, maybe some of the non negotiables, Rich, that you would identify?
So ideally, if somebody's a degreed candidate, we're going to look for degrees that align with what a person's applying to. If somebody's applying to communications with an accounting degree, might not parallel so well. But obviously, if it is accounting, we might actually require the degree. In communications, we may not. So there's different areas of specialty. We see a lot of sport management, but that's certainly not required. I think that's just a natural degree for people who are interested in working in sport. But the truth is, at the PGA Tour, I think there's very, very few jobs that absolutely require any golf knowledge, let alone experience playing. When I joined the tour, I almost hate admitting this, but it is kind of a fun fact. I mean, I managed employment agencies for many years before joining the tour, and the tour was my client. I actually said to my boss, who I had a bit of a rapport with before getting hired, I said, I'm a baseball and football guy. I know next to nothing about golf. I barely knew the difference between a birdie and a bogey. And fortunately, he said to me, Rich, I need a recruiter at the time, not a golfer. So, many people on this call probably have attended the Players Championship.
Mhm.
And I would venture to guess that nearly 60% of the people that attend are there for the experience and the social aspect. The game of golf gives back in so many different ways, and I think that's a fun one. But a lot of those people might not even know any of the players. The first time I went to the players, I had no clue what was going on, and it was just fun to be out with everybody. So the degrees, the association to the sport are less important. In some cases, um, it certainly is applicable. But
Right. Well, I think that's great for those on the call to hear because it does showcase that you shouldn't eliminate yourself from the process because you don't know how to play golf.
mhm,
You don't have to be Scotty Scheffler to be able to work for the PGA Tour, right? So I think that's
absolutely.
important because I think it's very easy for us to say, well, I don't have this experience or I haven't played golf. And so why would they even want to talk to me? I feel like you sharing that particular experience is very helpful and it should allow individuals to feel that, if they want to contribute to a great organization, they don't have to know how to play the game of golf. They can still be very
Certainly.
successful in a career pathway.
No doubt. Absolutely the case.
And I think that's important because when we are out talking to students, so many students are interested in sports or sports adjacent careers, and it's good that they can have this awareness. You could be a football fan and still work for the PGA Tour. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Um, so we always are talking about employability skills or soft skills.
Hmm.
People want to do business with people that they like. People want to do business with people that they can really work with well. That was, I kind of just summarized a quote from the regional president of PNC Bank, Chris Kalin. They want to do work with people that honor their commitments, those kinds of things. What particular employability skills do you as a recruiter really want to see?
So for soft skills, the first thing I would say is attitude. At the tour, big egos, cockiness are never going to fly. We've got an incredibly humble leadership team. Um, I walk down the hallways and Jay Monahan, the commissioner, um, I don't know of any of our employees that call him Commissioner Monahan. It's Jay. Jay's the type of guy, he's going through the lunch line like everybody else in the cafe. He'll sit down at a table with anybody. So I think that goes for many of our leaders. And I think that quality is certainly one that we like to see in individuals. Initiative is a big one. Um, you don't want the employee who's going to sit back and just say, oh, I couldn't do it because my manager was locked up in a meeting. You know,
Mhm.
asking and being naturally curious. So are you figuring it out on your own and taking that initiative, as I said, or are you waiting? So I always encourage people to either, speak to your coworkers, just there's different ways. And I say that more so for, well, it does apply to everybody, but I think it's most commonly that I'm sharing that with the new to the workforce individual. Um, we're a constantly evolving organization and we want to keep things progressive. I often joke that our culture is comfortably discontent. We've got a great brand and we're proud of that, but we're not sitting back and saying, all right, yeah, we're the premier golf league, but it's how do we make it better for our fans, our employees, our players, our sponsors, our media partners? Those are all things. And so staying curious really just lends to the evolving culture that we have. And I think about our interns even. Um, last year we did a Case Cup challenge and our interns shared some ideas that for our mobile app that our digital team overlooked. And so the ideas come from every level and that diverse thought, backgrounds, whatnot, it's constant. So it keeps it exciting.
I love that. That's great. And I mean, I think that's important. You can't you can't be comfortable and grow, because you can't rest on your laurels. You have to always think about how do we make ourselves better, and that's why your brand has continued to be a dominant brand and a well-recognized and well-respected brand. So
Well,
having
thank you
people
for
that work
saying
for
that.
you that, yeah, having people that work for you that that see that as part of it is extremely important. So curious, Rich, what are some of the significant trends that you're seeing? And will these trends create new or different job roles? People are always wondering, new things coming online, if that's going to impact the workforce.
Sure. So I think I hate saying this, but COVID might have actually been good for the game of golf. For the most part, people wanted to get out of the house. And so golf is one of those sports that allows you to be outside. You can easily socially distance. And so we saw more people picking up the game. They'd start watching it because it was one of the first sports that returned after COVID. So that was pretty exciting for us. And with that growth, there's more players coming into the scene from all over the world. As a result, we are actually expanding internationally. We've now seen tremendous growth in the European markets, particularly London. I've been hiring there in Tokyo, expanding for the Korean and Singapore markets. So it really, even for my world, in the HR department, it just makes it exciting to learn about the different cultures and different ways of hiring. But for the workforce, as we continue to grow, and I suspect we're going to have significant growth, particularly in the European markets, as we partner with the DP World Tour, the formerly known as the European Tour. Um, with that growth, it really broadens the experiences. I mean, we have some of our employees who are actually now expats, and they're working in the UK for a period of time. So it's really I'd say broadening our cultural experience within the tour as well. So lots of growth. And then as we grow, the trickle down effect, we need more people in HR to manage the growing workforce, more accountants to handle the different ventures that we're taking on. Earlier this year, we engaged and created a subsidiary with Summit Sports Group. And so they are new investors into the subsidiary. Brings more prize money, more money for building our infrastructure. And essentially, that's all designed for growth. But with that, we needed more accounting people, more lawyers, more HR people. So the trickle down effect, as one area grows, it just really expands everywhere. So it's been exciting.
I was going to say, when you started your career with the PGA, you may have not projected that this was going to occur, but as it's grown and developed, I'm sure that it's just afforded you so many different experiences that have been meaningful in your career.
I joined the tour in 2013. We were about 600 people at that time, and now we're about 1,300 people.
Wow.
So we expanded. Shortly after I joined, we started going international. So it's been exciting to see.
That's awesome. Um, there is a question in the chat.
Yes.
I'm going to address that before we move forward with some of our additional questions. Um, what does day-to-day operations, what do those operations look like when big tournaments aren't in full swing?
So I feel like there's almost never a downtime.
Mm,
For our sales folks, they are typically out there. Let's say the first couple of months, 1 to 2 months after a tournament, they are focused on renewals and upselling and how can they make a better experience for our sponsors or hospitality guests and the fans even. Following that, it's the grind. They're looking for um, new business, and then leading up to a tournament, then they're taking calls and essentially saying that, okay, here's what we have available now because it's so close. If you want the suite on the 17th hole at Sawgrass, uh, you need to request that a lot sooner. But
Mhm.
with regard to the Players' Championship, it's just amazing. For the month starting in October is when the grandstands and all the buildup happens for the event that's not happening until March. So the unique thing about golf is that our stadium is not fixed like Everbank, where the Jags go, leave, and it's still there. We're looking forward to the new stadium, but in golf, it is very different. So they are literally just completing the teardown now. So the stadium course is currently closed for those final touch-ups and bringing the course all back to normal after everything's been removed. So it's just amazing how much time is involved in putting that tournament together. Um, Operationally, we've got sanctioned and co-sanctioned events. So those co-sanctioned events that are not owned and operated by us, we have a team that supports them in order to make sure that they're recruiting the right volunteers. Pretty much all of our tournaments require hundreds to, in some cases, thousands of volunteers to help put on the events. And then the different training programs. How are we doing what we do? So it's just a constant review and working with the cities, permitting, all those different things go on throughout the year.
And of course, marketing.
Marketing is a constant. Absolutely.
Marketing never ceases because we need to keep this messaging out in front of those potential investors and the patrons all the
Sure.
time to keep that brand awareness. So
It is
yeah,
huge and constantly
absolutely,
evolving.
absolutely. Um, so what new and innovative ideas or best practices are currently being innovated? And this might tie into marketing because with digital marketing, there's so many things that can be done. But just kind of curious to know a little bit about those innovative opportunities.
Absolutely. So, I think about things like product development. If anybody's watched a golf tournament or a football game, football might be an easier to relate to, but you've got your line of scrimmage when you're watching on TV. You've got the 10-yard line. So those digital lines, it's great to see how that works, and it helps the fan experience watching on TV. Well, in golf, we've got the red line. It's the ball trajectory. It's a product that we've ultimately built on our own. It's called ShotLink. And so our team, they've, basically developed patents and whatnot. They have patents for all the technology that they've developed with tracking that ball flight, showing the statistics of how far a ball is going, what the apex is, the curve, more stats than the average person really cares about. But it's we're in a world where people want that data. And there's the avid golf fan who just loves to track that. And then we're in a new world where sports betting is now legal online, DraftKings, FanDuel, things like that. While it's not yet legal in Florida, many places it is. And so those individuals really rely on data to make educated bets, if you will. But
Right.
the way we can develop technology to see how a player's putt is going to roll across the green and what the odds are that they might make that putt. It's fascinating. So that's a piece of technology. We've got a lot of automation and tools that will automatically streamline some repetitive tasks. So that's important. Other areas of innovation include, sustainability and developing eco-friendly situations and tournaments. The Waste Management Golf Tournament, or WM, out in Phoenix is a zero waste event, which still blows my mind how they do that, but they're the experts in it. In our building, we also look at that. We are encouraging people to bring their own water bottles, or we provide them too, but essentially there's filtered water stations. So just those little tools to help eliminate all the plastic cups and waste of that nature. So a few different evolutions in that regard.
That's fantastic. And what I'm hearing is job opportunity. If you have a student that's really interested in technology and testing out their theories, some students, may have already had experience writing patents. I know that with some of our robotics programs in the region, that was actually something that one team did. So this could be a way for students to take their existing interests and their skills and experience and apply it for employment with the PGA Tour. So that's excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
A big question that's always on the table is how can students engage? We had a question a little bit earlier about CSX. Are students able to hear directly from guest speakers and that kind of thing? We're always interested in knowing how students can engage with the company. So if a student's interested in an internship or job shadowing or any kind of connectivity with our schools and community-based organization, what might that look like, Rich?
Sure. So we do host an internship program every summer. It starts in the beginning of June, runs through the end of July. We're traditionally accepting applications mid-September through mid-January. And then the process for our team really starts so far as the screening, vetting, down to the selection process. It's a hands-on experience. Students will truly participate in meetings, collaborating with other colleagues, different departments, coming up with ideas that really will have an impact on our workforce and what our product that we're putting out to fans and what have you. We incorporate some classroom trainings into that, so they learn about networking, communication styles, even diversity and inclusion, equity and inclusion. We host a number of business insights series. Basically, it's where we have executive leaders from different departments come in each week and just share how their department operates so that students aren't just learning how, if they're working in communications, they're not just learning that. They're not just learning accounting. They're not just learning marketing, but they're hearing how a sports league works as a whole. So I think they walk away as better professionals, and no matter where they go to work. But we've really focused on developing opportunities where students can, and hopefully will be able to come back to the tour once they graduate. So goodness, I just hired somebody who interned in 2008, and it was for that product we were just talking about, ShotLink. He was on that team back in 2008, applied for a project management job. And here we are in 2024. He asked me, what types of projects will this job focus on? And I said, ShotLink will be the primary focus. And he's like, oh my God, I've gone full circle. This is great. And so we did not hire him because of his ShotLink experience 20 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago. I mean, it's completely changed as a product, but I know he's going to kick it out of the park. So we're excited to have him back.
That's awesome. That enthusiasm, and to know that you all made this investment in an intern that then became a full-time employee is tremendous. Love that full circle moment that you mentioned. And our website, earnup.org, is filled with stories of individuals who turned their internship into a full-time job opportunity. So it's incredibly encouraging.
Love it.
Now,
It's a tough process. We definitely get very strong application. I think this past year we had over 1,000 applications,
Wow.
and we're picking for 16 positions. So the acceptance rate is actually lower than Harvard, but those that are in it, they are stellar. We require students to complete an essay, submit their resume, and then also a creative prompt. So that's a little fun and gives us a little bit more insight into who those individuals are and what they're about.
That is really great. Now, Rich, are these internships specific to college students, or can high school students also take advantage of these
Those
opportunities?
are for college students,
Okay.
and those are open to rising juniors and above. If students are recent grads, if somebody's graduated in December of the year prior to the internship, they'd still be eligible.
Okay.
But that's that particular program. There are also opportunities within the TPC network for internships, and those don't necessarily require um, anybody to be matriculated in a college program.
Okay. Good thing to know. And just a side note, if any of these internships are posted on Indeed.com, the EarnUp website will pull those internships in. And so individuals can search by keyword, by company, or by industry. So wanted to throw that out there because we have heard overwhelmingly that there is so much interest from high school and college students for those internship opportunities. They see the value of those, and examples that you've just shared just further reinforce why those opportunities are so valuable to people. So thank you for sharing
I,
that.
if there's, one of the valuable experiences I had, my first job was McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
If When I was first coached on how to present McDonald's on my resume, um, it was focused on customer service, cash
Mm-hmm.
management. It's not just flipping burgers, right? I mean, what skills really matter and can be transferable? But I was, my degree, oddly enough, was accounting and info systems. And when I was in high school, one of the things I did was I was able to begin an executive internship program. And when students have the opportunity to start gaining some corporate experience, if that's what they'd like to do, I definitely encourage that because it's just going to build your life experience so much faster than um, if you know what path you ultimately might want to take, or even if you're just trying to get that general corporate experience to, do I like communications? Do I like accounting? Or like Rich, where you have a degree in it, and then after 5 years, it's like, all right, career shift. So um, it still always was a great foundation for everything else I did. So
Oh, absolutely. And as you said, the value of the transferable skills is tremendous. So, yeah, definitely need to recognize that and be able to highlight it appropriately on a resume and in an interview situation. Um, just a quick question: is AI impacting your role or your organization at all?
sure. Um, so in many different ways, it touches my role. Sometimes I'll use AI because I might be interviewing and I'm not sure what type of questions I should be asking for a particular role.
Okay.
So I'll use something like, oh goodness, Copilot or ChatGPT. And, I mean, truly, I've had to hire pilots for a corporate jet. And what what do you ask a pilot? Obviously, our
Right.
team, sometimes as I'm doing intake meetings and speaking with our hiring managers, I'll ask them, but my team will also just use different tools to help um, develop questions. Perhaps it's writing a speech or other quicker ways to develop email responses because you can play with the tools so much. Although it does scare me a little bit. I look at the essay prompt that we did for our internship program.
Mhm.
And for the educators here, it baffles me because are students truly writing their own essays, or are they using AI tools? So that's part of why we have our creative prompt, because it really
Sure.
requires that initiative there. But then
Understood.
there's other
Understood.
tools. I mean, AI, for things like our mobile apps, what players do people want to track? And it starts to pick up on that. If they're, you know, I mean, I hate saying it, but the reality is, uh, if your buying trends, your credit cards link with different technologies, and
Mhm.
so it might promote certain things in the, as we've all seen in Facebook or advertisements, it's
Mhm.
driven by AI, and so the tour definitely applies that as well. So it does come up.
Sure. Understood, understood. And I do know from talking to some educators that, they will have students review a product that came from AI, like an
Hmm.
essay, and then
Sure.
use their critical thinking skills to evaluate the tone, the accuracy, the grammar, and things like that. So it can become a teaching tool as well. So super interesting.
Sure.
Well, let's move on, Rich. What really excites you about what you see happening in your industry in the next several years? That long term growth. Obviously, things have changed so much since you've joined. But what else is coming up that's exciting?
Well, as if you followed golf in any capacity over the last couple of years, you might be aware that we've been competing with a rival golf league,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Saudi Public Investment Fund. And so they've been hosting a league, Live, which is, fun fact, it's Roman numerals for 54, LIV. And it's because they play 54 holes instead of the traditional 72.
Oh, okay.
But we call it Live as the abbreviation. And I think we have been pivoting, really working hard to figure out how to get all the best players back on the same course.
Mhm.
This divide hasn't been necessarily good for the game of golf. And so, um, by bringing everything back on one stage, similar to what we saw at the US Open this past weekend,
Right.
um, that is an event that's not hosted by the PGA Tour.
Mhm.
And so players from all over the world on any league are eligible to compete in that event. Um, and so as we work out this deal to join together again, and also additional growth in partnership with European Tour and whatnot. I mean, the growth is going to be incredible in the years to come. And I wouldn't be surprised if 5 years from now, I'm telling you that we've jumped from 1,300 employees to over 2,000 employees. I just anticipate that, based on what we're seeing, there's going to be more hands on deck to pull it all off.
Wow, excellent. Well, again, thinking about the opportunity for those students here that everybody's pouring into, going to be some
Sure.
some wonderful opportunities with PJ and certainly CSX as well. Um, that's fascinating. So there's one additional question in the chat, and I know, Rich, that I've been throwing these at you, and
No,
you've
go
you've
for
taken them
it.
so
Love it.
gracefully. Another question that is in the chat is: in what capacities may high school students volunteer with the PGA in hospitality? Because I
Oh,
know from being out at on the course that you do see those students. So how can they get
sure.
connected to those opportunities?
So if we're speaking about North Florida in particular,
Hmm.
I'll focus on the Players Championship, which is our marquee event. It's the unofficial fifth major.
Right.
Um, they have their own website, players.com and theplayers.com. And there's actually a section dedicated to volunteers, similar to all of our events. And if students or organizations want to sign up, we always welcome those volunteers. I mean, they are such an integral part I mean, we really could not host our events without all the volunteers that we rely on.
That's wonderful. And a great opportunity for students to really work on those customer service skills and communication skills through an opportunity like that.
Agreed. And the other aspect of that, I mean, when I look at interns and I look at a resume, not just me, but the tour as a whole, I mean, we're looking at what is a individual getting involved with while they're in school. So are they the student that goes to class and goes back to the dorm or goes back home, or are they getting involved in student activities? Are they getting involved in philanthropic activities? Being that the tour is so focused on giving back, we love seeing those types of volunteer activities or philanthropic activities on somebody's resume.
Got it. Another helpful hint there that we'll make sure we share and put in the summary.
Sure.
Last question. What message do you hope really resonates with teachers, parents, students, the community-based organizations about the opportunities that are available here in corporate operations?
Well, I think the real world relevance is important, right? So, as I said, highlight the understanding of um, uh, corporate operations and the valuable insights into the business functions that are going to be critical to future careers, regardless of the industry. Uh, Encourage students who want that corporate side to engage or tap into those experiences whenever possible. I mean, if a student is high school student at one of our TPC clubs and the people skills you would develop, whether it's in our retail shop or in golf operations or even as a server in the clubhouse, I mean, those relationships are so valuable, not to mention the networking that happens as a result. I feel like some of the best opportunities in somebody's career will come through networks, not a random job application. And it's why, I mean, this year I've brought in a specialist who's got a company dedicated to networking and not just meet people or how to make an introduction, but how to follow up on that and how to expand on that relationship, because relationships drive business, right? And I think at the tour about some of our people who have grown and even transferred departments, I go back to attitude and how important that is. And I think about one gentleman in particular who was a graphic artist, and I didn't understand why he was applying to a paralegal job. And I said to the attorney who was hiring, "Hey, I just want to let you know so and so applied." And he said, "Oh, great. I can't wait to talk to him." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Rich, one, he's got a phenomenal attitude and he's eager to learn and work with others. His collaboration skills are high. And as a graphic designer, his attention to detail is high. And I happen to deal with patent and trademark law. So that's all about the details. And so when it comes to teaching him the skills needed for the paralegal part, that was easy. And I want to say he's been in that department now and grown in that department for over 5 years. And so it's just attitude really impacts so much. And being curious, put yourself out there, get uncomfortable. That would be areas that I would coach future students to build upon. So.
Wonderful. Well, very wise words. We have heard from two fantastic guests today on our workforce briefing. Rich, thank you so much for sharing your insight. Leslie, the same with you. We are
Thank
going
you for the
to,
opportunity.
yes, we appreciate it so very much. These two have been fantastic and really helped bring this event to life. So thank you so very much.